proteins, vitamins, oils, and starch. Okay, and they store them in different forms, right? This is what we discussed in our previous class. So today we are going to talk about a new topic. Okay, other modes of nutrition in plants. That's what we are going to discuss in today's class. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So it is other modes of nutrition in plants. Now, can you think of what are the other modes of nutrition in plants? Apart, we normally see that plants perform photosynthesis, but what are other modes of nutrition for plants?
Parasites.
Yes, Mafaz?
Parasites.
Parasites, very good. I'm talking about and saprotrophs, very good. Parasite. So here in the figure you see, this parasite is actually a cascata plant. Okay, in Hindi it is called as amarbel, Amarbel. Okay, so this is the cascata plant, which is a parasitic plant in nature. Okay, so what this plant does, it twins itself to the host plant from where it gets nutrition. Okay. So other mode of nutrition in plants, it basically includes two types of motivation of nutrition. First one is what? First one is the parasitic one. Okay, so first one is the parasitic, and the another one is the saprophytes. Very good. That is the saprophytes. So see in saprophytes what happens, in parasite plants what happens. The parasite plants are those plants which are not able to perform photosynthesis. Okay, they lack the green pigment in them. Okay, so here you see if the example of, we take example of cascata plant, it is yellowish color. See, it is yellowish color and it has entangled itself. It has twinned itself to the stem and branch of the plant from where it obtains the nutrition. Right. So we say that some plants lacks green pigment. Okay, and derive their nutrition from other plants called host. Okay, so this green plant from where this cascata or amarbel plant is getting nutrition, that is called the host plant. That is called host. Okay, so there are some plants that lacks green pigment and derive the nutrition from other plants called host. Example is cascata here. Okay, that is also called amarbel. Now another mode of nutrition, another mode of nutrition in plants is saprophytes. Okay, so see here in the figure, this is actually a mushroom. Okay, this is actually a mushroom here. So mushroom, it basically grows on dead and decaying plants and other organic matters. Okay, so we say that some non-green plants obtain their nutrition from what? Right. Obtain their nutrition from dead and decaying plants and other organic substances. Okay. What does the word organic mean here, Mafaz? Organic substance. What does it mean here? So anything which was once alive, that is called organic. Like if there's a fallen leaf or a dead plant, once there was life in it, once it was part of a living plant, okay, or if there's some dead animal, If there is a remains of dead animals, that will also be called an organic substance. Why? Because once it was part of a living being, once it was alive. Okay, my fast. So organic substance basically we mean by those substances which were once living. Okay. Substances which were alive ones. Okay. So some non-green plants obtain their nutrition from dead and decaying plants and other organic substances. So one example of it here is mushroom plant. Okay. That is a mushroom plant. Okay. I hope there's no confusion so far.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Now, how do the plants replenish the nutrients in their soil? Like we are continuously growing different types of crops on our land. Okay. The nutrients present in the soil, they must get exhausted after some time. Right. So the next topic comes here, how nutrients get replenished in the soil. Nutrients gets replenished in soil. Yes, Amit, can you think of the answer?
By adding fertilizer.
By adding fertilizers. Okay, and what else?
The bacteria.
By adding?
Bacteria.
You're talking about vermicompost.
Huh?
Vermicompost you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So nutrients get replenished. So we add fertilizers and manures to the soil. That is one way. Okay. Can you suggest some natural methods of increasing the nutrients in the soil? There are two ways. One is we can naturally increase their fertility. Okay. By nutrient, we are basically referring to the fertility of the soil. Okay. If the soil is more fertile, it will have more nutrients. Okay. And vice versa. So one method is by taking the naturally step, and another method is by adding fertilizers and manures. Adding fertilizers and manures. Okay. Now, when I say that we take the natural step, what do I mean here? That have you heard of those plants which are able to fix atmospheric nitrogen into the soil?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Let me tell you about that. Look, there are some plants in nature which can naturally fix the atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. Now the question one question you must pose here, that's why does the soil or the plant needs the nitrogen? Why is it necessary? Yes, Mafaz?
Yes, sir.
Because in previous class I have told you that soil requires some very basic components, some very basic nutrients. Soil requires almost how many? 17 nutrients are required by soil. 17 different types of nutrients are required by soil. Okay, and six of them are required in major quantity. Okay, we are not going to talk about all six of them. Just know about three different nutrients required by the soil. NPK. And here is standing for what? Nitrogen.
Nitrogen.
Very good. And P here stands for?
Phosphorus.
Very good. Phosphorus. And K here stands for?
Potassium.
Potassium. Okay, so you see, these are very important nutrients required by the plant for a healthy growth. So what happens in the roots of certain plants, like plant of wheat? If you zoom out the root of a wheat plant, let's say this is a wheat plant here, the diagram which I have drawn here. Okay, although it does not resembles a wheat plant, but just for reference, for purpose of understanding, we assume it to be a wheat plant. So if you observe the roots of wheat plant, it will have bulb-like structure on it, like this. Okay.
Yes.
There will be structures like this. That these structures are called actually nodules. What do we call them?
Nodules.
Nodules. And inside this nodule lives a very good bacteria. There lives a bacteria. Okay. That bacteria is called rhizobium bacteria. Rhizobium. Rhizobium bacteria. So this rhizobium bacteria, what it can do, it can fix the atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. Okay, this is my soil here. Okay, so let's say this is atmospheric nitrogen. Okay, now this atmospheric nitrogen is fixed by the rhizobium bacteria into the soil. Okay, rhizobium bacteria fixes the atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. Now, what do I mean by atmospheric nitrogen here? You see, atmospheric nitrogen, when I say this word, I basically mean that the nitrogen which is present in gaseous form in the nature, right, Mafaz? So can plants directly take this atmospheric nitrogen which is in the gaseous form? No. Roots absorbs anything in the form of solution, right, Mafaz?
Yes.
So root is capable of absorbing anything in the form of a solution. So what happens once this, listen this thing very carefully. So once the rhizobium bacteria fixes the atmospheric nitrogen into the soil, and when we irrigate the soil, when we pour water into the soil, so that nitrogen gets mixed with water and forms nitrogen solution. Okay. Now, as we already know that roots absorb anything in the form of solution. So that root now will absorb that solution of nitrogen, and hence plant will get nitrogen. Yes, Mafaz?
Yes.
Okay. So do tell me, is this procedure not natural? Is there any human interference? Like, is there addition of any manure or fertilizer here?
No.
No. So there is not much human intervention here. What we just need to do, we need to plant such plants which contains rhizobium bacteria in their roots. So such plants that contains rhizobium bacteria in the roots, they are called what? They are called leguminous plant. Okay. So we see that plants that contains rhizobium bacteria in their roots are called what? Leguminous plant. Are called leguminous plant. Okay. So one example of it is wheat plant. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So this is how we replenish the nutrients lost in a natural way. Okay. Now the second method is obvious, that is addition of manures and fertilizers. Addition of manures and fertilizers. Okay. Now, what is the basic difference between manure and a fertilizer here? On one side I've written manure, on the other side I've written fertilizer. Both of them contain nutrients required for the healthy growth of a soil, for the healthy growth of a plant. If we talk about manures, manures are basically prepared in field using leaves, dead leaves, plants, roots, stems, and leaf and peels of vegetables. Okay, and other dead living organisms. Okay, basically you can say that the whatever the farm waste is produced, the farm waste is produced, that is used for preparation of manure. Okay, we say that manure, it is produced in the field with the dead and decaying farm wastes. And what are those farm wastes?
Dead leaves.
It could be dead leaves. Okay. It could be dead leaves and cow dung, right? Cow dung, cow urine. Okay. Dead stem and branches, etc. Okay. You can add vegetable peel in it also. Okay. Vegetable peels, etc. So what we basically do, we dug a very big pit into the ground and we pour all these waste into it and we cover it with straw. Okay. Straw, you know what is a straw?
Yes.
Okay. So we cover it with a straw and leave it for a period of 1 month approx. Okay. Leave it covered for approx 1 month, and after that you will see that all the dead decaying organism, all the dead decaying matter has reduced to a small mass, and that the small mass which you obtain, that is called simply manure, and it is ready to be used in the farmland. Okay, there are some advantages and disadvantages of using manure. Can you list some of the advantages of using manure?
So the plants grow faster.
The plants
Grow faster.
grow faster. What else?
The plants stay alive.
Plants
Get all the nutrition.
get all the nutrition. Okay, what else? Okay, look, the 2 points which you mentioned, Mafaz, here, it is not accurately correct here, because when I will discuss the disadvantages of using manure, we will see that manures actually contain lesser amount of nutrients as compared to fertilizer. Okay, so when you will use the fertilizer, then there you will observe better growth of plants. Okay, so advantages of using manure is such that it increases the water holding capacity of the soil. Okay, since there are lots of fibrous material in this manure. Okay, you know fibrous material. Okay, plants basically contain cellulose, you know that.
Huh?
That's why plants contain cellulose in them.
Yes.
Cellulose. Okay, plants contain cellulose in them. So cellulose provides fiber to the substance. Okay, so there is lots of cellulose and fibrous material into the manure. So this increases the water holding capacity of the soil. So if the water holding capacity of the soil is going to increase, then it is very beneficial for the plant, right?
Yes.
So we say that adding manure increases the water holding capacity of soil. Okay, now another thing is that since it is made up of organic waste, hence it is going to promote growth of humus in the soil. Now here's a term, humus. What do you mean by humus here? Yes, Mafaz? Promotes growth of humus. What does this word humus mean here? Yes, Mafaz? Heard this word before?
No, sir.
Okay, let me tell you. So humus is such a substance that basically it consists of dead organisms Okay. Plus, it consists of earthworms, which is found in the soil, insects, and bacteria. Okay. So if you observe a soil, a piece of, if you take a mass of soil and if you observe that, there's a possibility that you will find some dead organism in it. There might be earthworms, insects, or there might be bacteria also. Okay. So when you observe that these are the components found generally in a soil that has some moisture content, not in dry soil. Okay. Because no life is found in dry soil. So humus is basically made up of dead organisms, earthworms, insects, and bacteria. And it is known for increasing fertility of the soil. So humus increases fertility of the soil. Fertility of soil. Know this thing. So if there is more availability of humus in the soil, then the soil will be more fertile. Okay, my first. So it promotes growth of humus. Adding manure promotes growth of humus. Okay. Now there's a worm that is actually called farmer's friend, friend of farmers. Which is that worm?
Um,
I've actually written the name of that worm here.
earthworm.
Earthworm. They are called farmer's friend. Can you think of the reason why they are called farmer's friend?
So because it is a humus, and humus is that
Exactly.
air.
Okay, very good. It is part of the humus. That's why also it is called farmer's friend. But if we go behind, if we were to be more specific, we will find out that when this earthworm moves across the soil particles, it creates gaps between the soil particles. Right, Mafaz? So while it is moving across the soil, it is creating gaps. And when there is rainfall, the rainwater can percolate through those gaps and reach the root of the soil. So that's why also it is called farmer's friend. Got this, Mufaz?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about fertilizer. Are fertilizers also produced on the field or in factory?
So in fact,
Yeah, they are. Okay, we actually forgot to discuss about the disadvantages of manure. So let's discuss that as well, and then we will move on to fertilizer. Now, can you think of some disadvantages of using manures? Yes, Mufaz, think of some disadvantages of using manure. Yes, Mufaz. What could be the disadvantage of using manure? Let me tell you. The first disadvantage is that it contains lesser amount of nutrient. Contains less amount of nutrients. Okay, that is the first disadvantage. Another disadvantage is that it is a time consuming procedure to produce manures. Okay. So production is a time consuming process here. It is time consuming. It takes almost 20 to 30 days to produce this very small amount of manure. Okay. Another thing is that bulk amount of wastage is required for production of just a minute amount of manure. Bulk amount of manure is required. Of waste is required actually. Required for
bulk,
production of manure. Yes, my fast?
bulk means more.
Yeah, bulk means huge amount, more amount. Okay. So if you get almost 40-50 kgs of organic waste, you will get only 4 to 5 kgs of manure. So bulk amount of waste material is required for production of manure. So these are its disadvantages. Remember the advantages and disadvantages. Okay, I may ask in future classes. Now talking about fertilizers, you know that they are simply produced in factories. They are simply produced in factories. Using what? Organic matter or chemicals?
Chemicals.
Using chemicals. By using chemicals. Okay. So when fertilizers are being produced, actually very lesser amount of raw materials is required. Okay, you don't need to take bulk amount of organic wastages here. You just require less amount of what? Chemicals here. Okay, lesser amount of, or we can say raw materials, lesser amount of raw materials required. Now another thing is that for chemicals, they contain higher amount of nutrition. These fertilizers, they consist of higher amount of nutrition, right?
Yes.
So that will come into its advantages and disadvantages. So if we talk about the advantages here, the first advantage is that it contains higher amount of nutrition. Now you list some of the other advantages of using fertilizers over manure.
Sir, it needs small amount of fertilizer.
It requires a small amount of what?
Fertilizer.
Okay, just a small amount of fertilizer will have much amount of nutrition. Okay, so that I have mentioned here, that it contains higher amount of nutrition, meaning that just few grams of fertilizers in comparison to manure will have much amount of nutrition. Okay, what else? It takes lesser time. It takes lesser time and space for production. Takes less time and space for production. Right. While in the case of manure, we saw that for production we took almost 20 to 30 days, while manure can be prepared just in a matter of hours. Okay, so it takes less time and space for production. And one more thing, that it is easy to carry from one place to another. So the maintenance of fertilizers is also very easy. You simply pack it into sacks, into sack bags, into jute bags or plastic bags, and you can transport from one place to another. While in the case of manure, it is not very easy to maintain it. Okay, you cannot just carry it from one place to another very easily. Okay, so it can be transported easily. Transported easily. So these are the advantages of using fertilizers. Now, what are the disadvantages of using fertilizer? Think of at least 3 reasons. What are the disadvantages of using fertilizers? Yes, Mafaz? Look, the first thing is that it does not promote growth of humus. Humus, which was basically made up of earthworm, insects and bacteria and some dead organism also. So if we keep on adding fertilizer to the soil, is it good for the survival of earthworm, insects or bacteria, or will it kill them?
It will kill them.
It will kill them. So it harms the growth of humus. Harms the growth of humus. Okay, and what about the water holding capacity of soil? Does it have impact on that also? Does it promotes the water holding capacity?
No.
No. So another disadvantage, it does not promote water holding capacity of soil. Water holding capacity of the soil. Okay. Now, is there any more disadvantage of using this? Look, if we look, humus is a very important part in farming. Okay, if a soil is rich in humus, then your product yield is going to be very good. Product yield means the amount of production from the farmland is going to be very good. But if you continuously keep on adding fertilizers for 1 year, then second year, then the year after that, if you keep on adding fertilizers, what happens? All the humus of the soil, it is dead. It gets depleted. So in that case, the soil becomes barren. The soil becomes very unfertile. Okay. And moreover, what happens if we keep on adding fertilizer on the soil? Let's say if there's a heavy rain, and there's a pond nearby, there's a water body nearby or lake nearby, what will happen in that case? The extra fertilizers which you added into the soil, that will run off with the rainwater into the nearby water body. All the chemical is going to the nearby river body there. So what is going to happen here? All the living organisms, the fishes and plants found in that river body, is it good for them or harmful for them?
Harmful.
It is harmful for them. So it will basically kill all the fishes and aquatic plants in the nearby water body. Okay. Okay, give me a minute. I will be back in a minute. Yes, Mufaz. So what it is going to do, it is basically going to kill all the aquatic life in the nearby water body. Okay. So we see that harmful for aquatic life. Okay. So these were the advantages and disadvantages of using manures and fertilizers. I hope there's no confusion in this. All right, Mufaz? Okay. Now let's see your NCERT textbook if there's any uh, questions or topics left or not. NCERT is being followed in your school, right? Yeah, Mufaz? Yes, can you listen to me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the chapter ends here. Okay, we have almost covered all the things. I guess a few topics are remaining. 2 topics is remaining here. Okay, actually we forgot about that. That is the symbiosis. Okay. See section 1.5 here. How nutrients are replenished in the soil. Okay. We have discussed that. Okay. But before that, in the previous section, in the saprotrophs, that is in the section 1.4, there's one topic remaining here. See this paragraph, from some organisms live together, this one.
Yes.
Okay. There's a very interesting symbiotic relationship between two organisms, which we need to discuss here. Okay. So in nature, you will find out that two organisms live in a relationship where they are benefiting each other. Okay. So one will be doing the work of food production, and one will be doing the work of providing raw materials for food production. So we will discuss that. So see here, we were talking about saprotrophs. Okay. So read the paragraph from here. Fungi also grow on pickles. From here, Mafaz.
Fungi also grow on pickles, leather, clothes, and other articles that are left in hot and humid weather for a long time. During the rainy season, they spoil many things. Ask your parents about the menace of fungi in your house. The fungal spores are generally present in the air. When they land on wet and warm things, they germinate and grow. Now, can you figure out how we can protect our things from getting spoiled? Some organisms live together and share both shelter and nutrients. This relationship is called symbiosis. For example, certain fungi live inside the root of plants. The plants provide nutrients to the fungus, and in return, the fungus provides water and certain nutrients. In
Okay.
organisms,
Yeah, stop there. Okay. So we were talking about other modes of nutrition few moments ago. That was the parasitic and saprotroph. Okay. So saprotroph, we saw that basically those non-green plants which derive their nutrition from dead and decaying substances. Okay. So one of that saprophytic plant is actually a fungus. So you must have seen that bread catches fungus, and pickles and food items, they basically catches fungus on them. You must have heard of the word before. So fungus are basically saprophytic plants, okay, that feeds on decaying matter. Okay. So here in the figure which you saw, that this mushroom is actually a fungus. This is also a type of fungus. Okay. And see this figure here, the figure of a bread mold. The bread has caught fungus here, and it is unfit for consumption now. It cannot be eaten. So fungus, you see that they are generally present in the air. The spores of the fungus, if I were to draw the diagram, let's say this is a fungus here. Okay. And this is, it's called, its head here. There are so many tiny pores in it, spores in it. Okay. Spores. So they are very tiny and they are almost present everywhere in the air. Okay, if you leave a food open in the air, if you leave a food open, after some time you will see that it has caught fungus. So where did this fungus came from? It came from this spore. When this fungal spore landed on the food, it contaminated it. So the fungal spores are generally present in the air, and when they land on wet and warm things, they germinate and grow. So once this spore lands on your food, what happens? It starts to germinate. It starts to get nutrition from that food, and it starts to grow then. Okay. So that is about the fungus. Okay. Now there are some living organisms that shares shelter and nutrition. Okay. The relation is such that one organism is providing food and the another is providing shelter to the another one. So such a relationship is called symbiosis. It is such a relationship in which both the organism is getting benefited. Okay. So such an example of symbiosis is called lichens here. Lichens. So it is a chlorophyll containing partner, which is an alga and a fungus lives together. Okay. So remember, if you remember in our previous class, I told you about alga. See this here, this alga. Alga contains chlorophyll in them. Alga have got chlorophyll and they can perform photosynthesis. We talked about this, that they contain chlorophyll and hence can perform photosynthesis. So what happens in nature? We need to discuss it in this section. Other modes of nutrition in plants. Yeah, give me a minute. Okay. So there is another mode of nutrition in which two organisms are living in a relationship where each of them are getting benefited. That is called a symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic relationship. Or in short, you can also call it as symbiosis. So here what happens? One organism is providing nutrition and the another organism is providing shelter here. Okay. And they are living together. So such an example is that of an alga here and fungi and fungus. So what is happening here? This alga is doing the work of food production here. Since it is photosynthetic, so it provides food here. It does the work of food production. And this fungus, it actually provides the raw materials required for food production. Okay, it provides water to the alga. So they both together live in a relationship and they together live in a relationship and they appear as lichens, Lichens. So that is a classic example of a symbiotic relationship. Okay, Mafaz.
Yes.
So what are lichens?
And the lichens are chlorophyll containing partners.
Yeah, they are the relationship between a fungus and an alga where they live together. Okay, so the fungus provides shelter and water and minerals to the alga, and in return this alga actually prepares the food and provides it to the fungus. Okay, I guess there must be a figure of lichen here. Okay, no, there's no figure of lichen here. In the next class I will show you the figure of lichen. Okay, now the another section in the given in the answer is how nutrients are replenished in the soil. We already discussed that it can be replenished by a natural method where we grow leguminous plant which fixes atmospheric nitrogen into the soil, and the another method was by addition of manures and fertilizers. Okay. Okay. Now your chapter ends here and we have got exercise work to do. So have you completed the exercise work? Since this chapter has already been completed in your school, have you completed the exercise work, Mafaz?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All the questions from question number 1 to question number 13?
Yes.
Okay, so do one thing. Upload the answers of the questions which you have written yourself. Okay, these questions will be sent to you as assignment and upload the answers. Okay. Okay, I actually need to see the way how you answers the questions. How you answer the questions. Okay. Okay, so Mafaz, that's it for today.